The first thing Karen noticed about Aldermere Street was how quiet it was. Not the quiet of an empty place, not the hollow, slightly unnerving silence of a street where no one is home. This was the quiet of a place that was full and settled and had learned over a long time to hold itself with a particular stillness. The kind of quiet that a cup of tea makes when it has been sitting on a windowsill for exactly the right amount of time, neither too hot nor too cold. She sat in the passenger seat of the removal van on a wet Thursday morning in March and looked out at the street through the rain-blurred window, and something in her chest loosened slightly. They had needed this. She and her husband, James. They had needed something that felt like a beginning. The last year had been the kind of year that uses a person up. A miscarriage in October, his redundancy in January. 6 months of the particular silent tension that settles into a marriage when two people are each trying not to add to the other's weight. Aldermere Street was a crescent of Victorian terraced houses, each one narrow and 3 stories tall, with small front gardens edged in box hedges that had been cut with the precision of people who took such things seriously. The brickwork was dark with old soot and new rain. Window boxes held plants that were too healthy to be accidental. The pavements were clean in a way that suggested regular attention. It was, Kara thought, exactly the kind of street where life might go more gently.
The neighbours came before the removal men had finished unloading. The first was a woman named Patricia from number 12, who appeared at the gate with a covered dish of something that smelled of rosemary and slow cooking. She was in her late 50s, with the kind of face that has learned to arrange itself into warmth so thoroughly that warmth has become its natural state. She pressed the dish into Kara's hands with both of hers and said she remembered what the first day in a new house felt like, and she wanted them to eat something real. Before Patricia had walked back down the path, a man from number 8 had arrived with a bottle of wine and the offer of his drill if they needed anything put up. By mid-afternoon, 4 more neighbours had knocked, each of them bearing something: bread, flowers, a jar of jam with a handwritten label, a local map with recommendations circled in red ink, and small notes beside them, in neat handwriting. Good coffee here. Park is best in the evening. Avoid the roadworks on the high street until April. Kara stood in the half-unpacked kitchen with James, and they looked at each other over the covered dishes and the bottle of wine, and she felt, for the first time in months, something that she eventually identified as hope. She did not yet know what Aldermere Street cost.
The warmth did not diminish in the weeks that followed. If anything, it deepened. Patricia remembered that Kara took her coffee black and always had a cup ready when Kara passed her open door on weekend mornings. The man from number 8, whose name was Robert, a tall, deliberate man who chose his words as carefully as he chose his tools, fixed a leak under their kitchen sink without being asked, having heard through some mechanism Kara could not identify that they had been putting off calling a plumber. A woman named Helen from the end house organized a street supper in April, and 23 people gathered on folding tables in the middle of the road and ate and talked until 11 at night, and Kara sat between Robert and a quiet younger woman named Diane and felt, in a way she had almost forgotten was possible, that she belonged somewhere. James was thriving. She could see it in him, the particular brightness of a man who has been given back his sense of place. He was talking about starting something new. He had made friends, real friends, with the ease of a person who has found his correct environment. Kara was happy. She needs to say that clearly before she says anything else.
She was genuinely, unreservedly happy on Aldermere Street for the first 3 months. The first thing she noticed was a conversation about her friend Anna. Anna had been her closest friend since university. They had lived 3 streets apart for 6 years before Kara and James moved, and they had seen each other every 2 or 3 weeks without fail, had texted daily in the easy, undemanding way of people who do not need to perform their friendship. 2 weeks after the move, Kara had mentioned Anna to Patricia, something small, a story about a trip they had taken years ago, and Patricia had listened with her complete, particular attention and said, gently, "It's so important to invest in where you are now, isn't it? To put down real roots rather than spreading yourself too thin." It was a reasonable thing to say. Kara had thought nothing of it. But 3 days later, Robert had said something similar, unprompted, while they stood at the gate talking about nothing in particular. "There's something about keeping your energy close to home," he said. "The people who live among you, they're the ones who are really present in your life." And a week after that, at one of Helen's Friday evening gatherings, Diane had mentioned, with a soft smile, that she used to spend a lot of time maintaining friendships across the city before she moved to the street. "It was exhausting," she said. "I didn't realize how much it was costing me until I stopped." None of these conversations had been alarming. Each one alone was a perfectly ordinary expression of a perfectly ordinary idea. Kara had agreed with each of them because each of them was agreeable. But she sat in bed one night in May with the rain against the window and James sleeping beside her, and she thought about Anna and realized that she had not texted her in 3 weeks. She texted Anna the next morning. Anna replied within the hour with warmth and a question about when they could meet. Kara suggested the following Saturday. On Friday afternoon, Patricia knocked with a dish of something and mentioned, while they stood in the doorway, that there was going to be a street gathering on Saturday. Nothing formal, just people in the front gardens in the afternoon sun. It would be lovely if you could both be there. Kara messaged Anna to reschedule. She is not sure now whether she thought twice about it. She rescheduled 3 more times that summer. Each time, something on the street provided an occasion that made leaving feel like the wrong choice. Not through force, not through any explicit pressure, through the continuous, warm, specific gravity of a community that wanted you present. By September, Anna had stopped suggesting dates. Kara began to look more carefully. She did not call it investigating. She called it paying attention. She began to notice the things she had been too comfortable to notice before. She noticed that no one on Aldermere Street talked about family visits. In 9 months of street suppers and doorstep conversations and Friday evenings at Helen's, she could not recall a single mention of a parent coming to stay, a sibling dropping by, a childhood friend passing through the city. People referenced family in the past tense or in the abstract. "My mother always said," "My brother and I used to," but never with the present tense ease of people who were in regular contact. She noticed that no one on the street had a job that required them to leave before 9 or return after 5. She had assumed at first that this was a coincidence of the particular kind of people who had settled here. She now was not sure it was a coincidence at all. She noticed that when, at a street supper in October, James mentioned that he had been offered a position with a company based in Edinburgh, a good position, better than anything he had found locally, the table had not reacted with the warmth or the congratulations she had expected. There had been a brief silence, precisely the length of a held breath, and then the conversation had continued and nothing more was said. But that evening, 3 separate neighbors visited them individually. Each conversation was its own topic entirely. Each one circled, somehow, to the same point: the difficulty of relocating, the underrated value of stability, how rare it was to find a community that genuinely looked after you. Each one said good night warmly. Each one squeezed her arm. James did not take the Edinburgh position. He told her it was because the salary, on reflection, was not what they had thought. He seemed entirely at peace with the decision. There was a house at the end of the street that Kara had noticed from the beginning without fully registering. Number 24. The garden was maintained, trimmed hedge, clean path, the same box hedging as everywhere else, but the curtains were always drawn on the ground floor. The upstairs window, the one at the far right of the facade, occasionally showed a light. Kara had asked Patricia about it once, early on, and Patricia had said that the woman who lived there was quite private and valued her space, and had said it with a warmth that somehow made further questions feel impolite. In November, passing number 24, on a gray Tuesday afternoon, Kara looked up at the upstairs window out of habit. There was a woman standing in it, middle-aged, thin, wearing a dark cardigan. She was standing very still with both hands pressed flat against the glass from the inside, and she was looking directly at Kara, not the unfocused gaze of someone staring into the street without seeing it. Direct, deliberate, the look of someone who had been waiting for exactly the right person to pass at exactly the right moment. Kara stopped on the pavement. The woman did not move, and then the woman lifted one hand from the glass, very slowly, and pointed not at Kara, but downward, towards something on the windowsill, something white and folded, just visible at the bottom of the pane. Kara went to the front door. She looked at the letterbox, then at the step. There was nothing there. She stepped back and looked up at the window again. The woman was pointing, more insistently now, toward the gate, toward the pavement. There was a folded piece of paper under the front gate, pushed through from the inside and left just beyond the reach of the front garden. Kara picked it up. She could feel the woman watching her from above. The note had been written in handwriting that was unsteady in the way of someone who was had to write very carefully and very quickly. It said, "They are not keeping you here with threats. By the time you understand what is happening, you will have nothing left outside to go back to. Check your friendships, check your family, count what is gone, then decide how much longer you want to stay." Kara went home. She went upstairs, away from James, who was in the kitchen with Robert, the two of them comfortable and laughing over something. She sat on the edge of the bed, and she opened her phone, and she looked properly at her contacts. She looked at her messages with Anna. The last exchange was 4 months ago. She had suggested rescheduling. Anna had said, "Of course," and sent a heart. That was all. She looked at her messages with her sister, who lived in Bristol. The last message from her sister was 3 months ago. Kara had not replied. She scrolled back through the year, through the messages she had sent and not sent, through the calls she had missed and not returned, through the invitations that had arrived from people who were no longer inviting her to anything because she had declined too many times. She scrolled until her hands were slightly cold and the room outside the window had gone dark. The year had been full. She had been present in her community, invested in her immediate life, exactly as Patricia and Robert and Helen had suggested. She had lost everyone outside the street without noticing she was losing them.
She did not leave that night. She told herself she would leave in the morning, would tell James, would make him understand, would pack what they needed and go. In the morning, Patricia knocked with coffee and sat at the kitchen table and talked about the spring plans for the street. A planting scheme for the front gardens, a summer supper on a larger scale this year. She was warm and specific and attentive, and she asked after Kara's sister with a fondness that suggested she had been paying close attention all year. Kara sat across from her with the coffee warm between her hands and listened and nodded. She did not leave that morning. She did not leave that week. A month later, a couple moved into number 2. Young, newly arrived, slightly dazed from the move, looking around them at the clean pavements and the trimmed hedges and the warmth that came toward them so specifically. Kara watched them from her window. That afternoon, she went over to introduce herself. She brought food, the rosemary dish, Patricia's recipe, which she had made enough times by now to know by heart. She pressed it into the woman's hands with both of hers and said she remembered what the first day in a new house felt like and that she wanted them to eat something real. She stayed for an hour. She asked questions and listened to the answers with complete attention. She remembered every small detail they told her: the woman's job, the man's sister in Edinburgh, the cat they had left behind with a friend while they settled. Walking home in the early evening, she turned to look back at the street. The hedges were trimmed. The window boxes were healthy. The pavements were clean. She was not certain by then when she had stopped noticing any of it.